In 1895, William James gave a lecture at Harvard with a stark title, Is Life Worth Living? The lecture was published in The Will to Believe and other essays the following year. James had every reason to take the question seriously. He had spent years in his late 20s so depressed that he had contemplated suicide. He had recovered enough to function, to teach, to write, to raise a family, but he had not recovered enough to take for granted that life was simply, obviously, worth living. The question was open for him in a way it was not for the philosophical optimists of his era who treated the answer as self-evident. His response, hard one, remains one of the clearest-eyed answers any philosopher has given to the question of what worth is and where it comes from. James started by dismissing the easy answers. The optimistic philosophers who argued that life was obviously a good gift, that every apparent evil was really a hidden good, that any person who could not see this was suffering from a defect of vision, these philosophers, James said, were addressing a question that did not really exist for them. They had not been inside the experience of finding life unbearable. Their cheerful arguments were preaching to a congregation that already agreed. The actual question, which had to be addressed in different terms, was whether life was worth living for someone who had honestly faced the case against it. The case against, James acknowledged, was real. Suffering was real. The destruction of what people loved was real. The futility of much human effort was real. The universe gave no obvious sign that any moral order undergirded its operation. People of great worth were destroyed by chance events that had nothing to do with their worth. The honest skeptic looking at this situation could not be argued out of it by saying that it was all fine when seen from a higher vantage. There was no higher vantage available to her, and pretending there was insulted her capacity to see clearly. For someone in this position, James said, the question of whether life was worth living was a genuine question with an undetermined answer. It could not be decided by abstract argument either way. The evidence on both sides was real. What it could be decided by, James argued, was a particular kind of action that the person who asked the question could take. Life could be made worth living, by the person living it, through certain commitments that, once made, would constitute the worth that they had previously found absent. The worth was not waiting out there to be discovered. It was created by the activity of the person who chose to commit to making her own life into something that mattered. This sounds like an evasion. It is not. James was making a precise claim. He was saying that the question of life's worth is not the same kind of question as the question of whether the Earth orbits the Sun. It is not a matter of fact awaiting discovery. It is a matter where the discovery and the constituting are the same act. The person who commits to certain things, and then lives in accordance with those commitments, generates worth in her life. The worth is real. It is also dependent on the commitment that produced it. The same person who refused all commitments would experience her life as worthless and would not be wrong in any factual sense. She would have, in fact, refused the activity that would have produced worth. What constituted worth in James's account? Not happiness alone. Not pleasure. Not success in the world's terms. Worth came from sustained engagement with something the person had identified as significant. Significant on the basis of her own honest examination, not significant according to external standards she had not chosen. The artist who had committed her life to her work had worth in her life, even when the work went badly. The parent who had committed to raising children attentively had worth in her life, even through the years that were difficult. The person who had committed to a particular kind of service, or principle, or community had worth, even when the cost of the commitment was high. The worth was located in the engagement, not in the outcomes the engagement aimed at. This had a powerful implication. The person who could not currently find worth in her life was not necessarily a person whose life lacked worth. She was often a person whose life had not yet been organized around the activities that would have generated worth. The remedy was not to look harder for worth that was supposedly there but not visible. The remedy was to undertake the activities that produced worth, with patience for the period during which the worth would not yet be felt. The feeling of worth followed the activity, often by months or years. The person who waited for the feeling before undertaking the activity would wait forever. James acknowledged that this approach worked better for some people than for others. There were forms of severe depression that did not respond to the philosophical framework he was offering, that required medical intervention, that came from biological causes the will could not directly address. He was not addressing those forms. He was addressing the much larger group of people whose sense that life lacked worth came not from biological depression but from the absence of any organizing commitment in their lives. To this group, his message was direct. The worth you are looking for is not waiting to be found. It is waiting to be made. The making is your work. The materials are available. Whether you do the work is up to you. For the person in genuine despair, this message had to be delivered carefully. James was not telling her to cheer up and try harder. He was making a claim about the structure of the situation she was in. Her despair was understandable. The despair was not the final answer, however, because the question her despair was asking, "Is life worth living?" was a question whose answer her despair could not settle on its own. The answer was waiting on what she would do next. The doing would change the answer. What practical advice fell out of this? James offered several things. First, find some activity that you can plausibly believe is significant, even if the belief is provisional. Do not wait for certainty that the activity matters. The certainty, if it comes, will come later, after the activity has produced what only the activity can produce. Second, commit to the activity in a serious way, not as a hobby you might drop, but as something you are giving yourself to. Third, persist through the period during which the worth has not yet appeared. The worth is generated by sustained engagement, not by initial enthusiasm. Many people abandon worthwhile commitments because the worth is not vivid in the early weeks or months. The wiser person stays. Fourth, do not be alone in the work if you can help it. The commitments that generate worth are usually sustained better in the company of others who are doing similar work. The isolated person trying to manufacture worth from scratch has a harder time than the person whose commitments connect her to a community of people who care about similar things. The community is not what generates the worth, but it supports the sustaining of the commitment that does generate it. James thought, looking back at his own years of despair and recovery, that his philosophy of worth was not optimistic but honest. He was not promising anyone that her life would feel meaningful if she did the right things. He was promising her that the meaningfulness she was looking for would not appear if she did nothing, and that the doing was the only candidate for an answer to the question that had been tormenting her. The work was hers. The result, when it came, would be hers too. No one else could give her the meaning she was looking for, because no one else's commitment to her life would do what only her own commitment could do. Worth, in James's account, was not received. It was constituted. The constituting was the work of a life. He thought the people who undertook this work were not the lucky ones who happened to have meaningful lives by gift. They were the ones who had built meaningful lives by labor. The labor was available to anyone willing to begin. Whether the worth was worth the work, only the person who did the work would ever finally know.